Tyler Groce for the podcast. Tyler is Gross. Hope you're doing well. I'm back at it. I'm sticking with the game. I'm very proud of myself. Third episode. That's y'all don't know me, but that's a milestone. Trust me, that's a milestone. 3 of anything is a milestone. Hope you're good. I'm fucking bored. That is my overwhelming feeling is boredom. I had a 3-day weekend, which is great, and just I wasn't bored I had shows and shit, and they went well, and I'm killing it and shit. I got some bits that are working out very well for myself, and I'm very happy about it. But just like during the day, I mean, just overwhelming boredom. And the thing about it is, I've never been good with boredom. Cause it just gives me space for my mind to fucking go wherever it wants to go. Go to like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, blah blah blah. Like, oh, you gotta go do something. I'll go out, blah blah blah. But recently, man, that boredom has been fucking good. That boredom has been like, I've been embracing it. I'm like, dude, I'm home. I got nowhere to be. It's the middle of the day on a Friday, 3-day weekend. And I'm like, I'm bored. And I'm just going to fucking embrace the boredom. And you know what? It's pretty good. It's not bad. I was for so long. I think there's just, like I'm a person who needs to like have like TV or not music, like something TV, a podcast on when I go to sleep. Otherwise my mind's just going to go. And that's basically when that works at night. But during the day, like I can't just be fucking listening to podcasts all the time. Like I need to be like entertained. And I need to be like having something going on, and just embracing this boredom has been fucking dope. I'm not doing nothing. I'll put on a podcast on my speakers. I'm playing this Pick Cross. It's like a puzzle game on my Switch. I'm just playing that, listening to podcasts, doing mindless puzzle after mindless puzzle. And it's just like my ideal self. I mean, it's so good. But it's still boredom, It's like, even if you're enjoying it, it's like I'd still rather be doing something. But man, I ain't and like I have all this time and I'm at home and I ain't doing shit. Am I doing chores? Am I doing little projects that I've said I need to do? No, not at all. My bathtub is disgusting. My kitchen is sink full of dishes. Just wasting the day, and like sort of embracing it, and this sort of like fuck you to that part of my brain that's like, let's do something. I'm like, you know what, fuck you. I'm just gonna play video games all day until I have a show at night. Then I'll go out, hang out with some folks, have a nice night, come back, pick up the video games again, and chill and it's just been good. It's been a nice change of pace. I remember when I was living in Europe, it was the same situation because comedy was my job. That's all I had to do all day, especially in another country. I was in Amsterdam, so I was in another country. I was in another place. I didn't know nobody besides the people I worked with, and I was working with them, so I didn't want to play with them too during the day. And I would just be bouncing against the walls trying to figure out something to do. A lot of walks. When you're alone and sad and you're like, maybe a walk? Like you're like, maybe a walk would break the fucking mundanity. It's like, maybe I'll just go on a walk. And it's like Amsterdam. So you think like, hey, but Tyler, at least you're fucking going on a walk in Amsterdam. Yeah, Amsterdam becomes just another fucking place after a while. And then you're just fucking bored. And I'm walking around. I'm finding like basketball goals. This is what I do. I find a basketball hoop. Like there'd be like a public one or something. And I would be like, maybe basketball? I'm always looking for the thing. And so I've never done well with like boredom and just not having something to do. And now I'm just like, fuck it, man. Like embrace it. Be bored and enjoy it. Like give like, I don't know, there's something about like if you give yourself that space, like you'll like if you expand into boredom, you'll contract into something else. That doesn't make sense. Like if you allow yourself to be bored for a while, eventually you're gonna hit that point where it's like, fuck it, I gotta do some shit. And then you're gonna do a bunch of shit, and then you're gonna get tired of doing shit, and it's like kind of expand, contrast. I like it. I'm figuring that shit out. which is dope. But yeah, I don't know. I Afghanistan happened like 20 years ago, and it concluded recently. Um, which that was I don't really watch the news. That was big news. I did see that, and I did. I mean, the images were very jarring. This was maybe a week ago, time of recording. So hopefully, hopefully it's still a mess whenever I put this out. So it's still sort of relevant. Time, what is it? Just so you know, it's August 22nd, date of recording. So if some fucking wild shit happens in the next between now and when this drops, sorry, I'm not talking about it. But that shit was wild. um, it's one of those things where like you see the images and people are fucking fleeing the Kabul, the main city, and the Taliban. The Taliban. They're scary with guns. They're taking over. They're taking over a government, and it's like, oh no. And then you realize, like, I don't know what the Taliban is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they do. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they stand for. I don't know what they've been fighting for. In recent years, I've gotten really into like socialist politics and stuff like that. Specifically, I've been reading this book for the last like 4 months. Way too long. I need to finish it. It was called The Wretched of the Earth. Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon. Black dude from like the 40s and 50s. Black philosopher guy who's really cool. And he was writing books about like revolutions and oppressed people grabbing the reins of history and through violence. It was very radical, but it was pretty like, I was like, man, I need to go out in these streets and pop off, you know, like it got me going a little bit. But then I remembered I like money and my life, so I decided not to do that. But yeah, so I've been reading like that kind of stuff, and I know that whenever people take over things, they're fighting for something, and then a lot of the times if we agree with them, we're like, hey, good for them, and if we don't agree with them, we're like, actually they're really bad. So I want to know what the real deal was. And so I started doing I started Googling, I started researching, I started doing my own research, #freethinker, and trying to figure out what the whole thing was about. And you know, I read some shit, I watched some shit. Of course, I go to YouTube, and fucking leftist YouTube is dope. I mean, you can find some good takes, some hot takes. I went to Empire Files. I watched that. There's this new thing I've been watching, Breaking Points. I watched that. And I also watched Colbert. I like watching Colbert's monologue about the news because I know that that's gonna be just. I'm gonna make sure this is recording. Otherwise, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. No, it's going. I watched Colbert because he's gonna have the most boring take. Colbert's going to have the most boring, basic, uninteresting take. Because that's who Colbert has become in recent years. I like him. I'll forever like Colbert. I mean, I watched him since the Colbert Report. I love that motherfucker. I think he's so funny and talented. And even on The Late Show, the show he's doing now, like, I'm not mad at him for what he's doing. But it's not an interesting take. He's not saying anything that we haven't heard. He's just sort of like reflecting back sort of liberal, let's be nicer to each other, Trump is bad stuff. And it's just not, like, it's everywhere, so it's just uninteresting. But I know that that's probably what most people in my bubble, in my Austin liberal artsy bubble, is going to think about it. And not that anyone actually gives a shit about Afghanistan. But, so I watched him, and I watched some other things. And just like also just learn the history of it, and shit's crazy, man. Poor, just poor Afghanistan. You know, you think about like Afghanistan. The governments are changing, but like the people are still the people. You know, like if MAGA came in and like on January 6th, if they actually overthrew the government and there was a new government today, we would still be us. Like, America wouldn't have fallen. We would just be either a new America or there'd be a new name. You know, like, oh, now we're the fucking Trump Erica. You know, like, why not? But we would still be us. We would still be our community. There would be Austin. There would be New York. There would be Kalamazoo. Like, there'd be all those places. There'd just be a new mechanism at the top. So for the Afghan people, I'm like, man, I feel bad for those motherfuckers because apparently they've been fucked with for the last like 50 years. Like 50 years they've been fucked with over and over again. First by the Soviets, then we came in and beat the Soviets, then we established our own government, or I don't know, we beat the Soviets and maybe they was doing their own shit for a while. I don't know. I'm not a fucking Afghanologist, okay? I'm just saying, like, they've been fucked with forever. And poor, like, people in their lives, poor, like, society that never got the chance to develop without interference, you know? Like we, I'm American. We in America. Like, British came over on their ships, spread a little smallpox, spread some bullets, killed off all the Native Americans, clean slate. Hashtag Christopher Columbus is my hero. Um, and then we just were uninterrupted ever since then. Just like we people have been fucking with Afghanistan for decades, probably longer than that. That's as far back as I went. Been fucking with Afghanistan for decades, so they never got the time to accumulate and build and innovate and all the things that a society needs to do. Meanwhile, we in America for 400 years just got unfettered slavery. I mean, just mwah. Can you imagine how great that was? Imagine if there was some big batter motherfucker coming in and being like, y'all can't do slavery, and then like freeing the slaves. Like, that would be, number one, good for the slaves, obviously. I might not be here, but hey, at least there wouldn't have been slaves. But it also would have crippled our ability to build wealth and develop as a nation. And then places like Afghanistan, places like colonized countries just never got to do that. They just never got the chance to like live their own lives. Their lives have always been dictated by some other motherfuckers trying to come in and stomp up and suck up all their resources. Apparently, like Afghanistan. I was doing something. Afghanistan could be like the Sierra Leone of lithium. Like, there's so much goddamn lithium there that, like, if they can control that, it's like $2 trillion worth or something like that, maybe even more. It's just like an insane amount of money. So everyone wants it for oil, for natural resources, for shit. And so people have been fucking with them forever. But them Afghani motherfuckers are resilient, number one. And then apparently, like, they gathered all these fundamentalist groups to become the Taliban to fight the Soviets way back in the day. And then I'm sure everyone knows this now. But point is, they were always fucking up. And then we were there for 20 years. And then Biden comes in and fucking, I'm saying fuck too much. Biden comes in and he pulls out. He really does it. Again, time of recording. Who knows what he's doing now? But, like, it's cool. It's good. It's good stuff. I'm surprised at how progressive he's being as a president. I didn't expect it. I wish it was more. I'm like, I wanted, of course, I wanted Bernie to win. I'm a young hip millennial, but there's this thing like he's a Slavoj Žižek. He's real popular. He talked about how like sometimes like you gotta be politically you have to be seen as the opposite so you can do the thing you want to do, sort of. For example, like Obama was elected and he was seen as this like big black progressive force that was scary to the establishment. And because of that, the man couldn't talk about Black Lives Matter. The man couldn't talk about black shit. He just couldn't, because it was going to be seen as like, here goes Mr. Progressive shooting us into communist territory. But Biden is the opposite. Biden was always seen as a Democrat who's very conservative. I mean, that's why Obama picked the motherfucker in the first place. And because of that, that has allowed Biden to sort of come up with these infrastructure bills and come up with these pulling out of Afghanistan for realsies and all these things. And that's a Zizek point. But it's just interesting, like, I mean, he's nowhere near as progressive as I would want him to be, obviously, and But I mean, I'm like, kudos on the motherfucker. from the it's I'm free to admit that I don't know anything about anything. So when I'm like, he should have pulled out, I'm like, everything I've read says that he should have pulled out. Like, I have no pros and cons. It just seems like some people that I like are saying that it was good, and I'm like, you make good arguments, I believe you. I think it sucks, but we've had 20 years to get this shit right, and we haven't. And there doesn't seem to be any reason to, because they're just making a lot of money off it. But yeah, so that's what's going on with Afghanistan. And I've just been chilling through that, living a lovely life, like all of us, away from any sort of true political instability, um, political corruption, maybe a little bit, political inaction, definitely, but instability. No, we know there's going to be an election in 2024. No one's worried about that. We all know how to vote and where to vote. We know that water's going to be clean, and we know that roads are going to be paved. We know these things. Even in the areas where they're not, we're like, hey, this isn't right. No one's like, yeah, that's how it goes. Like, we have our norms. We're doing good. As far as the globe goes, we still got problems and shit, but one step at a time. But yeah, I've also been watching this. I just finished this. So on the wall behind me, I have a painting. It's not a real painting. It's a Basquiat painting, original. No, I'm just playing. It's like millions of dollars. I got this Basquiat print, and I wanted a Basquiat print because Basquiat is cool, and he's like this cool figure. And I looked through his paintings and I was like, his shit's kind of dope. So I wanted to get one. So my friend got this for me. Shout out Rachel Austin. And I got it, and it's on the wall, and I like it, and I think it looks good. But I'm like, I don't know again, similar with Afghanistan. Basquiat is the Afghanistan of art, because I don't know shit about him. I don't know shit about Basquiat. I've only heard things. Mostly good with both Afghanistan and Basquiat. And so I wanted to know about the motherfucker. So at least if someone came into my home and was like, oh my gosh, well, who is that? And I'm like, it's Basquiat. Who's Basquiat? I don't know. I wanted to at least have some knowledge of what's on my walls. So I watched this documentary about him. It was called Radiant Child on YouTube. It's like an hour and a half. It was as far as documentaries go, it's okay. But I learned a lot about him. Apparently this is you can't see it. I'm not going to tilt the camera up to show you. So you're just going to have to figure this one out. It's sort of blue, and there's two faces on it. So Google that if you want to see it. It's a painting that Basquiat did of him and what is his name? Andy Warhol, because they were like homies. And Andy Warhol was all gay and shit, and he was like, I don't know if he was actually gay, but he definitely was cuddling up on Jean-Michel Basquiat, and was like, oh, tell him about your art, baby. And Basquiat was like, it's cool. It's just it was it was cute. And so Basquiat went and painted this right after they hung out one time, and it's just a picture of both of them. I didn't know that. And I'm watching the documentary, and man, he was a great artist, number one. I like his art. It's very visceral. It doesn't take a lot of you can just look at it and appreciate it. You don't need oh, I see you referencing Rembrandt as well as you don't need any of that. I liked it. It's visceral. It's good. Big swipes, colors. He had faces, things I could recognize. There's a table. I'm like, I own a table. I didn't need any more knowledge than a normal human has. It was good. And he's 27 club, so he died at 27 from heroin, which is sad. What's really striking about his story is he got famous very young at 2021, worldwide famous, right, for being this artist. And the thing that killed him was really he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the fucking fame. He couldn't handle all of the scrutiny of people constantly watching him and paying attention to him and being like, you're so great. And then, as what happens, you become great, and then it flips, and then everyone hates, and then everyone's like, your work's not as good as it used to be. And he his heart, he was so young and his heart was so pure, seemingly, that like he just couldn't handle that they loved him and they didn't like him. Like he couldn't handle that, so he just started getting on the drugs and he just wanted to feel good. He was in these like, fancy, artsy, fancy people, social groups, and just doing all these drugs and shit. And it was sad. It was sad that like kind of makes me like, I'm out here doing this. I'm out here doing comedy and obviously wanting to be successful at it. And of course, that ego, that deep, hungry, ambitious part of me is like, I want to be famous now. And I've been feeling that way probably since I remember being young and seeing Justin Bieber appear on Oprah. He was 13 years old, and I'm sure I was around that age. And I remember getting mad, being like, why does he get to be on Oprah and I don't? Like, I literally was just like, hey, fuck this kid Justin Bieber, man. I don't like him. I'm like, but I wasn't singing or nothing. I wasn't even funny back then. It's just like, I just wanted to be on Oprah, too. So I think there's always a part of me that wants to be this big famous person. But then you see what happens when you get it. I mean, this is a tale as old as time, but in Basquiat's case specifically, you see what happens when you get it young. Fucking destroys you. Either you do heroin and you die, or you become Justin Bieber and you become a Christian. And either way, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of that poison or the heroin. But so yeah, I mean, that was a crazy thing. And what was funny about it though was at the beginning of the documentary, man, they are just sucking his dick so hard. I mean, they were like, his pieces were unlike anything I'd ever seen. Like, it was just like, calm the fuck. And then they showed it, and it was just like a squiggle on a fucking napkin, because no one let him do his shit yet. So he would just draw on whatever he had. He'd like find some wood outside and fucking draw on it and be like, look. And it was like, I mean, it was like cool, I guess, but it wasn't as nearly as intricate as what his later work is. And they were like, I mean, it was just some of the most original and unique and prolific work that I'd ever seen up to that point. We knew at that moment he would be great. And I was like, this is bad. I would not buy this. And man, they were just sucking his big fat French dick, and so unnecessary. So I didn't even need to do that. But I was like, man, like, I don't know. If you make a documentary about me, if one day if God bless, one day I get to that point, God willing, inshallah, man, you better talk about my goddamn flaws. I mean, please don't. I mean, it's sort of the same with Chappelle. Like, people were talking about he was such a genius from the beginning. And then you go watch his early shit, and it's fine. It's good, but it's fine, Like, it's nowhere near where he got. And I guess, maybe that's not the point of them praising his early work. But my point is, like, talk about my motherfucking flaws in the documentary. Like, be like, early on, he talked about his dick a lot, and he had good ideas but no follow through. Like, just like, be honest and be like, and then eventually it clicked. Like, that's what I want. Like, we talk about these motherfuckers when they get great as if they were always great, and it creates this mythology that I just don't think is real. Like, I know I'm bad or was bad, and I've just gotten to the point where, like, I think I'm pretty good. And the idea that one day I get great and become recognized for that, and have people be like, ever since Tyler came out the womb, he was writing jokes. First, when the doctor said push, the first thing that came out was a pen and a joke book. Like, don't say that, because it's not true. Like, say like, hey man, he was trying. He tried for a long time, and it worked, and then it didn't, and then it didn't, and then it did. Like, Don't do that. Don't do me like that. Keep me humble. Keep me humble. But that's the end. Hey, that's the whole podcast, y'all. That's all. This time I decided to have topics written down, so I hope you can tell if anyone listens to this. Yeah, check me out, Instagram TJ Groce, Twitter Tyler J Groce, all GROCE. TikTok TJ Gross. I got a Patreon Tyler is Gross. Check it out. You can also email me at tylerisgross@gmail.com if you want to say something. Just let me know you're listening, goddammit. Rate and review, all the things you're supposed to do on a podcast, you should do for me too. And I'm gonna keep pumping these out. So love you. Goodbye. Take it easy. Bye.